Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the Professor Greg Dooley and the pundit Steve Clark. Men, take the mic.
So what's the cure for a miserable end to the football season?
Time for madness!
How about Michigan hoops and hockey, amongst the top teams in the country with a chance for historic glory? And toss in a few bonus games at home for hockey and women's hoops. And it's been a fun ride. Hopefully a few more miles to go.
Yes, the Professor and the Pundit is back and proudly presented by Nick Hopwood, who's a certified financial planner, founder, and president of Peak Wealth Management. Retire with peak confidence. Visit Nick's website today at peakwm.com.
Oh man, it's good to be back, and we've been away a while. The last time, Steve, that we were on the mic for our last episode at the end of last year, the U of M basketball team was unbeaten. And one of us tossed out the question, is anyone going to beat this team? Could they just simply win them all? And naturally, after we said that, and it was out in the airwaves in the universe, the team promptly, finally lost a game. But they've been amazing to watch. They are clearly the class of the Big Ten. They cut down the regular season nets, hung a banner in that finale against MSU, and it's been an awesome ride.
You've tried to enjoy it for the last few months, Greg. Now is the time, though. They've been pointing to this. Whenever they've had a little bit of a lull, they keep focusing on the fact of getting better because this is what they're pointing to. So never too high, as Dusty May says, never too low, but focusing on this week. And they've got some work to do because they actually ended with an 80-72 loss to Purdue.
They did, and they said they were hoping to cut down 4 nets this year. I assume they counted 2 already. That's the regular season in Vegas, and they had the opportunity. And big pun, you and the planner, Nick Hopwood, I believe, were at the game, and it didn't go our way, 80-72 Purdue, but how was the experience, man?
Man, I thought it was better than last year at Indy. I thought the crowd was bigger. I thought they were kind of more into it. The crowd really got into it from both sides once Michigan looked vulnerable. And people, I think, saw the danger once it got to about 12 points. They said, uh-oh, and the Purdue fans started waking up because then they really started thinking seriously, we could win this game.
Even Gene Katie woke up, it looked like, a little bit. Who's about 100 years old at this point.
He's like a founding father of Purdue now, you know? He's one of those guys. He just needs one of those white 18th century wigs.
Someone said,
on top.
Sister Jean isn't with us anymore, but,
Gene
Brother
Katie's
Gene.
next.
Brother Gene is with us.
Deacon Gene.
Yeah.
Purdue, when they looked like they had it, their fans came alive. And when Michigan fans thought we're in danger, they came alive. And the crowd noise was fairly equal. And, for a long time, I think people believed that Michigan was going to find a way to come back, but they didn't.
Yeah, it's so tough to beat, I think, Michigan, right? And it's part of the thing is because we can beat you with so many different people in so many different ways. But it seems like the teams that can match us physically with our size and just physically, Duke did that to an extent. And Purdue, despite Clough and Kaufman-Wren getting in foul trouble, obviously I think they were the difference, especially in the paint. They kind of muscled us around, and it was disappointing. What are you going to do? You can't have it all. And if there's going to be a stumbling block, and maybe we learn from this. What did you see,
Well,
Steve?
I mean, Michigan's always got plenty to learn from something. And since the LJ Cason injury, they've had some difficult roads. They have been winning in the last couple of minutes. Now, it's good that they have found a way to win those games in the last couple of possessions, but I'm deeply disappointed that Michigan didn't take advantage of the situation with Clough and Kaufman-Wren in foul trouble. They had 5 fouls, 4 minutes to go in the first half between the two of them. Michigan refused to throw it into the paint. There were a number of times where Yaxel was being guarded by Braden Smith in the low post. I mean, it's a 9-inch difference between the two, and they just refuse to dump it in. I've seen this. I've seen where Michigan has had a double-digit lead, and then they start goofing off, and the other team fights back because they're motivated to beating one of the best teams in the nation, and Michigan finds itself in a dogfight. We can laugh about it when they come close to losing a game but find a way to win, but their next loss ends the season. ends the dream, ends the run. So are they finally going to learn from this? They were doing Cadeau to Mara like all the time down in the paint against Ohio State and Wisconsin. Refused to do it this time around.
Yeah, there's some puzzling things and some people asking some questions, and you can't say like Dusty's experimenting. I've heard that he's been trying some new lineups. No, they wanted to win this tournament, man.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get it done. Let's hope it's a learning lesson. I know one thing about Dusty May, highly analytical, highly a process-driven guy, where they're going to learn from these things and observations and be gym rats like in the film version study, whatever that is. They are going to do it. Yes, you're right. It all comes down to these next few games. But we do have that incredible banner. And we talked about this before, Steve. I think, what would you rather have? That regular season banner or that tournament banner? And we're not dismissed. We wanted both, okay? Yeah. But for me, getting that regular season banner in an 18-team league, when we eventually played, all 17 teams, I believe, pretty incredible stuff. Yeah.
To me, every year, it's always the same answer. The regular season banner means more to me than the tournament banner. And I would have said the same thing last year if you had asked me the same question. You have a 3-month-long season to determine who is your champion. And then all of a sudden, immediately, let's discard that and let's bring all together the teams in one site and see that could be trumped. I don't buy it. There's other colleagues, good friends of ours, who feel the opposite, that they feel that the tournament championship at the end is the most important because that's how you're playing at the end of the regular season. Whatever their reasoning is, to me, the champion, 3-month-long war, let's not have a pickup game at the end of the season to decide who's the super champion.
Yeah, I will say we're going to talk about hockey in a little bit, but it's a good time to add it. This hockey tournament, because Michigan and Michigan State were so close at the top, it kind of felt like it could be a tiebreaker. Now, we haven't won it yet, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's an interesting point, Steve. Do you like the format, though, where every team has an opportunity now in the tournament, the way they opened it up to the other teams?
The 18 teams for the basketball tournament? I guess. I mean, I don't – those last 3 teams, they just, got on another flight to go across the country
But we were one of those teams a couple of years ago.
Yes. Well, I think at that time we were probably glad the season was over, didn't have to watch that team anymore.
That's fair.
Some of those guys just come in and just kind of lay the egg and go back home and say that was it. Yeah, part of the frustration level for me is that Michigan appears to be so unstoppable at times, but I also see them not going for the jugular. And when you see something that works, my approach and attitude is just keep doing it until they stop it. I just sometimes wonder why, when they look so good, how sometimes it looks like they can struggle so hard.
Okay.
And that's just a question for, more enlightened minds, people to tell me.
Maybe.
Because sometimes they just seem so easy doing it. It should be easy all the time.
But your point, in that is a coaching point. You should be taking them down where their weakness is and where we have an advantage. And we did. You're right. And it's a fair criticism, Steve. We've got the bracket coming up. We get the unique opportunity to see one of our opponent play in the play-in game. That's UMBC or Howard. And then we'll play Thursday. Michigan wanted to play Friday. That was kind of indicated by our region choice that we made as one of the top seeds. We're going to play Thursday. That's all right in the early evening, but it's going to be UMBC or Howard. UMBC, who made an incredible run a couple years ago, right?
Well, they're the one of the 2 teams that beat a number 1 seed.
Yes. So
they'll have an opportunity to do that again. Do you remember who they beat the first time around?
Well, if they beat a number 1 seed, it was Virginia, since there's been one number 1 seed that's lost.
And then Purdue was the second team that lost to Fairleigh Dickinson.
That's right. That
happened just a couple of years ago.
Well, let's not talk about that, Steve. We don't want that to happen.
I'm not expecting that. I'm not going to break down UMBC or Howard, but Michigan could play Georgia or St. Louis in round number 2. Georgia's a team that really likes to go up and down. They average over 90 points per game. That's one of the best in the nation. They have good rim protection on defense. But overall defense is optional at Georgia, and their style of play plays right into Michigan hands.
Yeah.
You want to run with us? Let's revisit November in Vegas.
Yeah, I think we're going to be playing one of those teams. I think we're going to get out of the first round. I think we'll take one of these teams down and get to that Sweet 16. That's kind of what that number 1 seed usually affords you, right? Is at least that berth. There have been some weaker teams like Penn State who showed some weakness in the armor at Michigan, and we've struggled with them. So let's hope this team is super focused.
Well, and that's the point. There's no more lessons to be learned. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
If you have to learn another lesson, it's in the summertime.
Right, and with a different team, by the way, because of this is a transfer portal team. A lot of these guys won't be here. Yeah,
No.
So there are no more lessons. But, Steve, you could be back where you just were, back in the United Center. That's a nice potential outcome, I think, for Michigan fans.
So Chicago is hosting the Midwest Regional Finals. That's the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, where Michigan, if they make it, and they should, could be facing a Texas A&M team without their Player of the Year candidate, J.T. Toppin, who is out for the year on injury. Or it could be Alabama, which led the nation in scoring for much of the season. The Tide has won 9 of their last 10 games before going into the SEC tournament, losing to Ole Miss. And I think Ole Miss was like the 15th seed in the opening round of the SEC tournament. And coming out of the news Monday morning, Alabama star Aiden Holloway, their number 2 scorer, has been arrested on felony drug charges 4 days before the team is set to play in the tournament.
Was that wrong?
Was that wrong?
It was just dope, but it was enough dope to be considered for non-personal use.
To choke a horse, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So Alabama's had some interesting people. They had a G League player who maybe we'll talk to a little bit later for a few games this year play before a judge intervenes, Steve.
Yeah, Charles Bediako.
Yeah, so maybe we'll talk a little, because that's been one of the major headlines in NIL, but he will not also be suiting up.
No.
Another judge said you cannot play. So Alabama's an interesting squad. Who else we got that we should be worried about?
So number 3 seed Virginia, who finished second in the ACC to Duke in the regular season and lost by 4 points in the tournament title, is the 3 seed there. And the number 2 seed Iowa State, that's a team that you have to look out for. They lost to Arizona at the buzzer in their conference tournament semifinal. They're a top 10 team offensively and defensively in the metrics, just like Michigan. Once ranked number 2 during the season, they crushed Purdue at Mackey, I think by like 30 points. They also beat Kansas. Joshua Jefferson is a first-team All-Big 12 player, and they have an elite defender and an elite three-point shooter.
They seem to be kind of the sexy pick to come out of this bracket and take down Michigan by a lot of the pundits, Steve.
Pundits.
There's a recency bias going on right now where they see Michigan lose to Duke. Remember, Michigan before Duke was like this era of invincibility. You know, it's their tournament to lose. Anything less than a national championship, Michigan fans should be crying in disappointment. And then they lose to Duke and they say, oh, yeah, okay, maybe Duke's the best team in the nation. Michigan's right up there along with Arizona. Michigan loses to Purdue, and you're barely finding Michigan on anybody's bracket on television over the last couple of days.
Well, I think they're seeing kind of what we're seeing. Is it we went from there to being this wild, unstoppable team blowing out everyone and just crushing everyone in Vegas and other teams. So have we regressed? I doubt it. Have other teams kind of risen toward our level? Maybe. Have they figured us out a little bit? Possibly, right? We don't exactly know. Let's assume we're not holding anything back. The other thing about this team, Steve, and I've done this, I've asked 10 different people. I've asked this in my classes. I've asked other people who follow this team. As far as what is the key to our success, like moving forward, you'll hear 10 different answers. It's Cadeau. It's it's foul trouble with either Ade or Johnson. Okay, it's we lost Kason, so McKinney has to step up into that. I've heard all these different answers because we're so deep. We win so many different ways. We're physical. We're finesse. I've heard some people, the shots have to drop, right? The three-pointers have to drop. There's probably a little truth to all of it. But the last one, historically, great point guards have had a lot of success in the NCAA tournament, Steve. I don't know if that's been a recent trend or not. But one thing that concerns me is it looked like we got as good as a point guard play in the first half of that Purdue game as you could get. We were penetrating, dishing, doing all the things we needed to do out of Cadeau, yet we were barely tied at halftime and got that kind of play. So I don't know. Are there any other concerns that are in your mind? Before we talk about the positives, man, before we talk about the positive.
I think everybody's right in these answers. If Mara and Johnson are in foul trouble, then you see other teams catching up. I have a concern that Michigan doesn't seem to be peaking right now. that they're kind of been playing the same and other teams are potentially getting better. Is that because this is the second or third time around teams have seen Michigan? Yeah, that may have something to do with it. But Michigan doesn't seem to be improving, and they seem to be hanging on with Kayson's injury. As far as the point guard goes, Kondo has got to be able to shoot well and distribute the ball well, and 3, not have as many turnovers. That goes for any point guard play. All right, this is just limited to him, but those are 3 factors that a point guard has to do. Dish the ball, shoot well, and don't turn it over. And if you have 2 of the 3, there's a glaring problem that could cause you to lose a game. And that's not just singling out Kondo, that singles out every single point guard that is out there.
Right on.
And Mara, I think, has been absolutely fantastic when he gets the ball.
He's been great, and we've been working the offense through him. And if he's in foul trouble, though, that to me is a big concern. Yeah, so
it's absolutely huge.
Can we win without him? We can. I think we've shown it. We've won with him in foul trouble. We can.
That is the luxury Michigan has. You talk about all the different ways they can win. They can have a number of things not go well and still win the game.
Right. You mean like an Australian 6'8" guy knocking down 5 straight 3-pointers.
Austin Rapp?
Yeah, from about 25 feet plus on average. It was nuts. That happens. It's March, okay? It's time for madness. Steve, positive things. Trey McKinney, I'm seeing more out of him. If there's someone who I've seen getting more involved in improving and playing well, I assume he has filled some of that vacuum, because Kayson's a big loss because he was also playing a lot better, right?
Right. So if Kondo was having a bad period, you just bring Kayson in, and a lot of times he would perform well. Fresh legs.
Yeah, but they moved Trey off just jacking threes and doing things, and he started to drive and distribute. He's made some mid-weight range jumpers. I think that'll be key.
He's going to be a star.
No doubt. The bottom line is we can, with our depth, beat you in so many different ways. We just got to show it. We got to do it. I mean, I'm positive about this, cautiously optimistic.
Right. Well, this, to me, has been the most gratifying regular season I think I've ever had with Michigan basketball. I mean, in my lifetime. But it's going to have to do a lot to make my top 5 teams of all time when you factor in the postseason. Because so many Michigan teams that we have been alive to see have made it to the Final Four, made it to the championship game. Only one has ever been crowned. And we were both teenagers when that happened in 1989. You have to get to that level to be amongst the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But this was one of the greatest regular season runs, probably the greatest regular season run in my Michigan lifetime. So there is that.
Would you be satisfied with the Final Four and just that?
I think it's realistic that you should be satisfied with the Final Four. And, of course, no one is ever going to be satisfied at that level. Losing at that point, losing at any point right now is going to be absolutely tragic for this Michigan basketball fan base.
Yeah, but if you want to talk about like these lists, but top 5, if this team makes the Final Four, I think they're in my top 5, Steve. Pretty firmly, actually. And that's including the Fab 5 teams.
But they got to get there. And one of the things to me that's a little bit different from a few weeks ago, it seemed like it was Michigan, Arizona, and Duke, and everybody else. And in the last couple of weeks, there's been a whole bunch of teams that seem to deserve to be in the conversation. Michigan wasn't the only team that lost. The other number 1 seed, Florida, lost in their semifinal game to Vanderbilt. Duke survived their championship game against Virginia, lost by 4. Arizona hit a buzzer beater in the semifinals against Iowa State, who's in Michigan's bracket, to win by 2. So I think there's a number of teams. The Houston Cougars, Kelvin Sampson, perennially there, just looking to break the glass ceiling, to find a way to get through. They were in the championship game last year, didn't make it. I think there's 8, 9 teams. Let's not forget Michigan State seems to be getting better as well.
They're getting better. You know what's been getting better in the news, Steve? AI, buzz, the future about AI, and most of all, I think people are wondering how it's going to affect our jobs. Steve, as we're recording this, Meta, the parent company of Facebook, announced almost 100,000 people are getting laid off. Can you believe it? You know who knows people? The right people, the people that can help you in your organization. If you have downsized and you need support in your IT environment to figure all this stuff out, who should you go to, Steve? MaverickTechnologyPartners.com. That's MaverickTechnologyPartners.com. Tim, thanks for being back with us as a sponsor for this period, and we appreciate you, man. And we know you're the best in the business, and you're going to help companies find solutions and find the right people to navigate these wild, wild times, especially with AI. That's MaverickTechnologyPartners.com.
Very cool. Other notes in the brackets. Yeah, Miami, Ohio, they made it.
Yes.
Controversy in this. Ever since the Red Hawks have been a daily conversation piece on National Talk Radio, they have been under extreme pressure. Their last 3 wins were by 2 points each against MAC schools that were 500 or less in the regular season standings. Their loss to UMass in the quarterfinals of the MAC tournament. I mean, I kind of saw them like losing in the final, maybe not the quarters.
Yeah, that hurt.
To UMass was a sub 500 team. You think they deserve to be in?
You know, Steve, I just thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, they deserve to be in. They deserve to be in. But then I applied the ultimate litmus test. Mm-hmm. What if it was my team who plays in a major conference like the Big Ten? What if it was Michigan on the bubble? Knowing that we played the schedule that we played, would you think it's fair? And I would probably say no. I like the idea of Miami of Ohio's who have great seasons getting their opportunity, but are you willing to do it at the expense of your team? I think has to be the question. Right?
So
isn't that fair, Steve? Like someone from Indiana, I don't know. I don't think they were in that last 4, but is someone from Indiana, if I'm a big Indiana Hoops fan, which I'm kind of, but I'm not worried about this particular instance.
Everybody's partial to their own team.
Yeah, and they, in fairness, and Matt Brown from Extra Points helped, they tried to schedule quad 1 teams and opponents. There's emails of trying to arrange games, and everyone's like, no. So they tried. So they didn't really get the opportunity to show what they could do. But then, of course, they lost the quarters.
Here's the caveat. No quad 1 wins.
Right.
1 quad 2 win, which means no quad 1 wins means they didn't play a quad 1 opponent. They had 1 quad 2 win, which means they had 1 opponent in 30-plus games in which they were considered a quad 2 victory.
Where are you at with it, Steve? Again, is that a fair standard to go? You have to put something against it, right?
I do, and everybody has a personal bias or representation for one of your 366 teams that are out there. The way I saw this, though, is the bubble was so poor to begin with. Who were we really robbing? Were we really robbing Auburn? Were we really robbing Oklahoma and their 9-game losing streak? Were we really eliminating the 11th place team in the SEC? Really just upset that Indiana didn't make it? Part of me wants to see the experiment because in college football, it was different for me. I thought no way in heck when Virginia Tech was a 1AA team or Hawaii was a 1AA team and not a part of a major conference to watch them go undefeated and say they should be crowned a national champion. UCF, okay? The list goes on and on. No way did they deserve the kind of ranking, that type of thing. And this would actually give us a chance, the ultimate experiment. You've got a team that finished the regular season undefeated at 30-0 and played nobody. How would they do? How would they do? And the thing is, over the last couple of weeks when they became a daily focus of talk radio conversation, you saw how the pressure got to them. Whether they listened to the radio or read print or whatever, other teams were motivated by it, I don't know. But you had 4 2-point games against sub-500 teams in conference until you finally lose one, which was by more than 2 points. I feel like the experiment's already over, that Miami will bow out in the first round. And so I'm like, I was strongly wanted to see them in it, but I really don't think, based on this, that they're one of the best 37 at-large teams.
Yeah, and of course, if they ran the table, they would have got an automatic bid anyway. But if they were undefeated, I'm with you. If they were undefeated, I would put all that aside. Let's say it was the old Ivy League, and it was Yale before they had a tournament.
Championship game. It was the championship game.
Yeah.
You know, you lost the championship game by 2 points. You were a heartbeat away from being 35-0. Obviously, you go in, but quarterfinal loss plus the 3 regular season games before it. I feel like the experiment is over and the joy of that experiment has ended for me.
I am glad to see it is still a story. Bruce Pearl, who many believe was just advocating for his son at Auburn,
Sure.
He soft pedaled it. I thought he was classy about it on the show. What else, Steve? The West with Arizona number 1. You've got Wisconsin out there. High Point, who I can't shake from. It must just be on our TV channel, Steve, CNBC, maybe others. That university has done an amazing job at promoting what they do, maybe better than anyone. They have a team in both the men's bracket and the women's bracket competing at the highest level. How about High Point?
Nice. Congratulations to High Point, whatever their team nickname is. Some analysts already said that Wisconsin was going to be an upset victim to High Point, and I just don't buy it. I think Wisconsin's pretty decent. Purdue, number 2. Wow, that surprised me. I talked to the guy in front of me. He's a Purdue fan who says, well, maybe we can get up to number 2. And I said, the bids are already in. It's locked. And he just nodded his head. This really surprised me because Michigan got no bump at all for winning the Big Ten tourney. They were a 5 seed. Nothing.
Yeah.
For winning it in Indianapolis. The tournament director did say beforehand, and I'm talking about Saturday interviews, that every conference tournament game would be factor in, and I just didn't believe it. But Michigan dropped from the number 2 overall seed to number 3, flipping with Arizona. Purdue rose from a 3 to a 2, and Michigan State was going to be a 2. This is the one time that Michigan State probably hoped that Michigan would have won.
Looking back, probably they're going to be in the East as that number 3, probably, there was a little bit of a ha-ha on Twitter, of course, when people realized what exactly happened. I think most people see, though, paired with UConn as not one of the stronger number 2s, arguably, okay? But they also got UCLA, who they could face again, who they just lost to. And Izzo and Mick Cronin have a little thing going back and forth. And, boy, the Blue Bloods in that bracket, Duke, Kansas, UCLA, UConn, and I'll add MSU. It's quite a bracket, the East.
Well, you got current coaches that have won national championships in that bracket. Pitino and St. John's is also in that bracket as a 5. So probably not likely that Michigan State plays Rick Pitino in St. John's, but it's always possible in the Elite Final.
Not my favorite dude, but they've had a nice little run, St. John's. And are they a 5th seed, Steve? A 5 seed, rather? Okay. Yeah. So betting. Who are the betting odds? Where does that sit right now?
Duke is the betting favorite, followed by Michigan. I think Michigan is plus 360. Arizona will be picked in most people's brackets. And Michigan, again, recency bias, the most likely to be upset early.
Yeah, that's what I saw. And I saw a lot of those pundits when they were first doing their first reaction, a lot of them dropping Michigan out. It means nothing. We'll see what happens. It was a tough week for MSU, though, Steve. Losing to Michigan,
please tell this story slowly.
Yeah, so losing to Michigan, obviously, in the end of the season, Michigan had already clinched the Big Ten championship, but, of course, Chrysler Arena, I was there, Steve, raining down on Tom Izzo and the Spartans with little brother. Not just the students, pretty much everybody. And I got to say, for a Michigan State game, good on the Michigan fans, because for the first time I can remember, we really drowned out the state fans, as far as there were speckles of green and there was green everywhere, but it was not like it's been in the past. So
surprising.
Good on Michigan. Then they lose to the Big Ten tournament, right? And effectively get dropped, from the number 2 seed after the way it turns out. Hockey loses and surrenders an opportunity to win the Big Ten tournament at Munn against Michigan. It was a little bit of a rough week for the Spartans.
Oh, that's right. So Michigan's playing Ohio State, their true rival.
Michigan's playing, their true rival. So we'll see.
It's good. Sometimes you get your little brother excited when you're playing basketball and stuff. You let him get the lead, and then you just come back and take it back.
Do you think of Michigan State as your little brother?
Yep.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, CFP at Peak Wealth Management. What's great about MSU Week for me is that my little brother went to Michigan State, which means he hates Mike Hart with a passion and calls all Michigan fans Walmart Wolverines. But you are not a Walmart Wolverine, and you are probably in great shape financially. But are you optimizing? How much time do you have to devote to managing your portfolio and your financial plan? How would you grade your results? Be honest. And how much time are you spending on these TPS reports anyway? It's time to outsource and partner with a pro you know, the guy who rode the bus to Bursley. Visit peakwm.com/mgoblog today.
Speaking of MSU, Steve, we haven't been on the air since the bulk of the fears, Izzo stuff, the
That's
reaction,
all that regular season stuff we've missed.
the giblet kicking phenomenon,
Yes.
Steve, and you've probably heard enough about it. Maybe you haven't. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe you're weird, man. But the way it just kept happening, I just wonder, Steve, if it was one of those things where, don't talk about it, don't do it. Like you're telling yourself not to do it, and it becomes a reflex. Like your body is like locked in it.
I think Jeremy Fears is an awesome player.
He is really good.
And he also knows where the boundary lines are. And like Bill Lambier, purposely crosses them.
Okay. Man.
I think that's just where he's at. And Tom Izzo is going to defend him.
Of course.
And I know how this went. First time it happened, well, I didn't see it. Second time it happened, well, I didn't see it. Well, now it's national news after the second time. And then there's all these other things when the blame game started going on. Tom Izzo doesn't have to say something. His minions can do it for him about how it's a Michigan, propaganda piece that's going out there. It's another story where a Michigan State player does something incredibly wrong and the fan base responds to say that it's Michigan's fault.
Right.
It just reminds me of how very, very tribal we are about our sports teams. And the curtain just goes over the eyes and we just do whatever we want to believe in.
Yeah, I think the worm turn, though, when it happened at Minnesota, that was like a big change here, the worm turn. The worm got hit again in the giblets. But Izzo's reaction, like opening the press conference or talking in the press conference about how he's no little brother. First of all, John Beeline's not reacting to anyone's. I'm bringing up John Beilein, and yes, he's got a great reputation here, but for a reason. He would never do that. He would never talk about what the fans were chanting. It's just a weird thing, and it's one of those things where, just like you said, tribal. The State fans probably love that he did it. That they said, "I'm not anybody's little brother." Yeah, that's our guy. But to me, I just look at that and go, You insisting you're not anybody's little brother is the little brotherest thing you can do.
He lost a lot of people on that press conference. And not just Michigan people, just people in general just saw that as really negative. And, of course, they saw that as negative because Michigan State ended up losing the game. If they had won the game,
you're right,
it would be completely different. We love this feisty guy. How old? Oh, my gosh, this is so great. And they went into Ann Arbor and they took care of business. And it's just, Tom is one of the best of all time. That's what they would say after a win.
It's one of your platinum takes, Pun, is the winner gets kind of the narrative, goes with the winner. It's 100% true. 100% true.
Just the way people see it. The one thing that I find intriguing all of this is that I thought there was a little bit of détente going on between Michigan basketball and Michigan State basketball. Tom Izzo and John Beilein getting along, smiling. Of course, they didn't want to lose to one another, but it was getting to be more Tom Izzo, Greg Campy than it was, say, Tom Izzo and Steve Fisher or something like that.
Yeah.
Dusty May coming to Ann Arbor seems to have gotten Tom Izzo back to 1990s, 2000s mode, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I think I know Izzo's very frustrated with the current state of college athletics, and now he's got a guy and a group of guys down the road that are very good at it. The way things are today, which we've talked about. You guys know what I'm talking about. And it is outside of the Izzo stuff, the narrative is that Michigan bought a team. Yeah, those are the rules. It'd be like, yeah, we added a 3-point line, but we still shoot twos because that's the way basketball is played. Okay.
I prefer, Greg, to say that Michigan has more to sell.
Yeah.
Schools do.
It's funny you say that, but absolutely, they have a ton to sell. It's just I don't know that Izzo likes to play this game. And by the way, they played the game. They had transfers. They didn't hit like Michigan's did. And I'll tell you that we were not the highest bidder for any of our players, as far as that goes. As you can understand,
right.
You got a full market of guys.
Larry Lage in the AP reporting this evening that Yaxel was offered $7 to $9 million to play at Kentucky and kind of inferred that was 3 times more than what Michigan did.
And there are challenges with some of the guys. A guy like Mara, there are limited ways he can be compensated due to his F1 visa status. So it's really interesting. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think Izzo has mentioned Dusty May's name. I think he's been like Voldemort.
Okay.
Sort of nameless. Won't say his name. Everything is a little bit personal. I'm just surprised.
Yeah, but Dusty doesn't really say anything super controversial either. Like, I don't think he's fed into it at all. I guess you can make up stuff, but
the conversation.
He sat in the chair at Breslin was about the most of it. But you hear what he said.
Stole it.
He's like, I'm not going back into the tunnel now. I gotta own it.
He stole the meme of the year.
Yeah,
and he did it against Michigan State in Michigan State's building with the Michigan State fan base yelling expletives all over the place. Just stole the entire moment. And again, because they won the game, it becomes iconic.
That's right. That's right. No one's buying prints of Dusty May with the fans yelling at him.
What Michigan State is mad at is that afterwards on Monday, when asked about things, Dusty had said there was 40 minutes of evidence.
Yeah.
You don't have to look very hard.
That's right.
Semi-quote.
That was fun.
On that
I was
one.
up there for that.
I think that got everybody riled up.
Did you see that Seth Greenberg's his prediction for the finals?
I have not seen this. Tell me.
3 seed Michigan State, number 1 seed Michigan.
In the Big Ten tournament?
Nope. In the big dance.
Oh my gosh.
Michigan State in the championship. Steve, if this happens, this is definitive proof that we indeed are living in a simulation. This would be the ultimate. This cannot possibly happen, and it happened. That's what he's predicting. He has Michigan winning the game.
I really thought they were going to be playing this past Sunday afternoon. I really thought that Michigan State was playing 2 teams that were on the low end for the semifinals. Nebraska 6-6 to close out their regular season. Purdue giving up nearly 80 points per game over their last few game stretch in the regular season going into the tournament. And Purdue turned it up defensively. They just all of a sudden turned it around. Went from giving up 80 to giving up 60.
Yeah. And I'm kind of with you because Fears is only getting better. And he is really good. I was surprised. I was really surprised they lost to UCLA. Down a guy for most of the game. But we'll see. We will see what happens. If it's Michigan State and Michigan in the finals, Twitter might break, Steve. At least local Twitter. We might have to get another server. And we will definitely be here.
Throw out North Carolina Duke, the best rivalry in basketball is Michigan and Michigan State, coupled with the best rivalry in all of sports, Michigan and Ohio State. Living in a kingdom. All right. Speaking of good basketball, Michigan women's basketball hosting. Explain this.
Yeah, I love it. So the NCAA women's bracket, format, for those of you who follow, but the first pods, the first 4 teams are at home sites. And of course, Michigan is a top 10 team in the final rankings. We a 2 seed, which was also a little surprising, Steve, in the good way. But either way, we would have hosted. We host starting this week here at Chrysler. It looks like I peeked at tickets, Steve. It looks like the whole place is going to be sold out. You're like, Dooley, no. You mean just the lower bowl? No. Everything's going to be sold out. So that's a big deal. This is the second time in history we will host games. The first time was 2022, Naz Hillman.
I was there.
And that team went to the Elite Eight. And that remains the definitive best achievement of our women's basketball program, which has been around since Title IX in 1973. I think that 73-74 season they were at it. We have 0 Big Ten championships. We have 0 Big Ten tournament. We've never been to the Big Ten tournament championship game. 0, Steve. So can we match that? Can we do better? As a 2 seed, we're expected to be there.
Should.
So we will see, but what a great way to start in front of the hometown crowd. I think it's going to be a really cool environment. They play Friday. I'm going to try to be up there.
Yeah, Holy Cross, 5:30 p.m. at Chrysler, the 15 seed. Now, in the women's tourney, the 15 seeds, there's a big difference between 15 seeds in the women's tournament compared to 15 seeds in the men's tournament. And then I would guess they would get the winner of number 7 versus number 10
Yes.
in the second round. Just tell me that Michigan is not in Iowa's bracket.
We are not in UConn's bracket, who is undefeated.
Yeah.
And far and away number 1. UCLA has won 25 straight games. And we actually, it's funny, we might have given UConn their best game this year or close to it. We match up pretty well, strangely enough, even though they have a really, really good big with UCLA. We took Vanderbilt to the wire. Mm-hmm. We took South Carolina in the beginning of the season to the wire. Iowa's had our number.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they're a number 2 seed as well. So, we're not in their bracket. Our team, who I don't know a ton about, is Texas. That's the number 1 seed on our region. So hopefully we get the chance to play them. They are the number 3 team after UConn and after UCLA in the country. I'd love to get there, but let's get out of Chrysler first.
Yep. It's always been close, but no cigar against teams ranked in the top 10. Need to be able to get over the top if they want to achieve their goals. You're also going to be out in Traverse City this week.
Yes, so I will be speaking this week, March 20th. I think the event starts at 11:30. I think I'm on around noon for the Traverse City Economic Club. Steve, that sounds fancy, doesn't it? I might have to wear a jacket. I think I do have to. I looked at the pictures to see, do I have to wear a jacket?
Is the judge Scott Wapner going to be there?
I don't know. There are some like celebrities who live up in that area, like politicians and otherwise, who have also spoken there. So
Coach of Central Michigan?
No, I don't know about that. It's a little far for him, Steve. So
But that happened.
Yes, that happened. That happened when I spoke in Mount Pleasant. So the Traverse City Economic Club, come check it out. You can get tickets at tceconclub.com. or go to mvictors.com/speaking, where you can see all of my speaking engagements that are coming up. I'm pretty fired up for this because I like to speak to these non-Michigan focused crowds. The Michigan crowds are my people, and it's more fun, but this is more of an academic, but I think a lot of these people have never heard these stories before. I'm going to tell the story of how we got here into NIL and kind of break it down, what's happening today in this current state of college athletics the way I do. What else, Steve? I'm busy building something called the History of Michigan Football Volume 1, 1879 to 1927. What is it? It answers that question. Hey, Dooley, can I audit your class? Can I come to your class? Can I be in your class? I went to the dean of the School of Ed. I said, why don't we get together and actually create an online version just focusing on Michigan football history with all this stuff. I pulled in all these awesome guests who have contributed to it. I got an awesome team at the School of Ed who has all the talent and tools to make something like this. Yes, it's going to have suggested readings, quizzes. It's like a real course. It's not for credit. It's for fun, but it's going to be available soon. I'd say in the next couple months. You can go to mvictors.com/history or just go to mvictors.com. I think it's on the homepage, or email me. Dools, DOOLS @umich.edu if you're interested. It's going to be really, really cool. We're planning to partner with the Alumni Association and some other groups, and I'll probably be talking about it outside this podcast quite a bit in the months to come. So I'm pretty fired up.
Cool. NIL news. We always say we're going to get to it, and sometimes we don't. We want to make room for today.
Yeah, so quickly. So Donald Trump, as bombs were flying in the Middle East, gathered 50 people at the White House for what he called the College Athletics Roundtable. What was it? I feel like it was a boomer's response to all the complaining about what's going on in college athletics today. Where are the ideas? What's wrong with it? Transfer portal, paying players. Of course, Trump doesn't know a ton about this, but he says, hey, I hear this is really a mess. Let's talk about it. So there were lots of people there. Nick Saban was, people like that, former players, coaches, the Big Ten commissioners were there, right? And they were all talking. Now, there were 50 people there with Trump and his team. So how much was actually accomplished in a 2-hour meeting? Who knows, okay? Who wasn't there is probably more important. Zero, Steve. Zero active student athletes were in attendance at this thing. So I kind of understand why, because who would you pick? Mendoza or somebody, but zero active college athletes.
Because this was a meeting about trying to find a way to return it to the way it was.
Pretty much. We don't like this. That's why I say the boomers thing. It's kind of like,
why are we wasting our time bringing in current athletes who might have something to say about how good this is?
That's right. So what's next? Trump's going to issue an executive order. Executive orders don't really have any legal authority. It can't overrule a judge. It certainly can't overrule the Supreme Court, who's been very clear about how they feel about this.
I say this all the time, Greg.
Yeah.
When people talk about a divided and a political Supreme Court, I just remind people they all got together to vote 9-0.
Yeah, against the NCAA. So what's going to happen? Look, what presidents do and political parties say, it does matter because it motivates people. So it could motivate Congress to actually pass a bill that would actually help, because there are some things Congress could do to help. It could motivate that process. Okay, we will see. That executive orders due out any day. But go ahead.
The Scores Act that is being brought up might be able to pass in the House, but it needs 60 votes in the Senate, and it seems to be called DOA.
Yeah,
dead on arrival.
The SCORE Act is trying to do too much, and it needs to be slimmed down to a few things that everyone agrees on. But we're talking about Congress.
What are they doing too much that won't get 60 votes?
It's doing 8 things related to like agents, scholarships. It's changing the transfer portal rules. Okay, it's making NIL law, which it's not right now, which kind of makes sense. Those are just some of the things that it's doing, but it's just there's too many people that have a problem with it. And on the Democratic side, they think it prevents athletes from becoming employees. It gives the NCAA an antitrust exemption. Okay, it does all those things. Some of those things go too far for Democrats. That's the problem. They need to find middle ground. It's Congress. Good luck. However, as you pointed out, the Supreme Court voted 9-0. Did you know, Steve, though, that the NCAA actually got a win since we've been off the air?
Wow, that surprises me.
Yes, and it was related to our buddy Charles Bediako, the G League player who attempted and did return to Alabama. He got a judge to issue a temporary restraining order and allowed him to be out of the G League. He declared, he played, he was paid in the G League. He got to come back to Alabama. He played 5 games on the way to that temporary restraining order. Alabama went 3-2 during those games, by the way.
Wait a minute. They found an Alabama judge?
Exactly. Then they found another one, though, I believe also in Alabama, goes, this is ridiculous, and said, this is absolutely, and he
so
can't
this
play.
Was an Auburn judge. an Alabama judge.
Dude,
State of Alabama judge.
But see, that's the problem, Steve. That's exactly, find the right judge. What does that even mean anymore? Okay. So what about those games, Dooley? Are they thrown out? No. He had the restraining order. They're going to let him go. They let him go. They didn't vacate the 3 wins or anything. But another judge said this is ridiculous. And I think it's going to be cases like this that bring people to their senses around eligibility and stuff and go, okay, there are clearly lines here. Going into the G League, getting paid and coming back and just suiting up in the middle of the season, crossed it. And the judge said, fine, the NCAA got one, Steve. Good for the NCAA.
I'm waiting for the day. I'm waiting for the day when a player in the middle of a season decides he's going to join another team and play immediately.
Yep.
I'm waiting for it.
I love it.
Somebody's going to leave some school and go to a conference rival and play immediately.
Honestly.
With the old team's playbook in his luggage.
So stuff like that might actually force change. Like the Bediako thing might actually invoke change. We'll see.
Maybe.
Steve, we mentioned hockey just real quick. We were up at the quarterfinals in the rarefied air of this sweet level.
Thank you for that invite.
We were killing it. Steve and I, we wore jackets. We had pipes. We looked so cool. No, we didn't. We looked like the 2 judges or the 2 old men from the Muppets up there. It was fun, but Michigan, and I'm so happy for my students because Michigan State lost. Michigan gets one more game for the students and the children of Yost. It's this Saturday night against the Buckeyes to win the Big Ten championship, and kind of settled in my mind. State won the regular season title by virtue of like a percentage, like in the win percentage and the points. But Michigan finished the unanimous number one team in the number one team in the country. We can kind of solidify it here, put another banner up in Yost before we head off into the NCAA tournament.
I like how you pointed your finger at me. It was sort of like the civ, pointing the finger at me while you were talking.
Right.
We watched Notre Dame get crushed. And in fact, my favorite whiteboard sign from the student section was Notre Dame gave up scoring for Lent. That was my favorite whiteboard sign.
I like they had another one, the little whiteboard that the Children of Yost makes. It says, "You're not even in the Big Ten commercial." Like, there's like, what are there, 30 teams now? You didn't even make the Big Ten commercial across the country. I love it, Steve. Anything else, man, before we get out of here? We got a big week ahead.
We did. We got a huge week with, Michigan hockey hosting, Michigan women's basketball hosting at the Chrysler Center, Michigan starting out in Buffalo for the men's side. I think softball is starting this weekend.
The Hutch. That's great. Yeah. I didn't know they were back. I know they've been playing. They've been doing all right. They're working out a few things, but that's exciting.
So
man, it's good stuff.
It's huge. Hopefully the weather will start warming up soon. It's gone up, but it's gone down. It's Michigan weather. Just wait 5 minutes. It's been great. You won't have to wait 5 minutes to download our next podcast if you save it up. We'll have another podcast next week.
We'll be
and
back.
If you delay it, you can listen to them back to back. That's how podcasts work.
All right. Thanks again to you, the audience. Tell somebody about this podcast. Share it. And thanks, of course, Pun, to you. And, of course, our sponsors, Nick Hopwood in particular of Peak Wealth Management. And we'll see you next week. Go Blue.
Go Blue.